First things first, Alien Romulus breakdown. I want to talk about this movie. First thing first, I'm gonna say that this was a good movie, but low key, I would say the cliche, like I already said, with Zorro earlier on the stream shit. I give this movie a cool 7.5. It's truly a 7, just because I feel like we've been through the story before. You feel me? Like yada yada. People get on a ship. The xenomorph kills every single one of the crew member in a certain type of way, and then you feel me. The strong female lead saves herself from the xenomorph, fights the big bad, leaves, dips, whatever. Yeah. I just feel like they did stuff no more. They didn't do nothing special. It was a good movie, by the way. It was like I said, the only reason why I got a 0.5 because the visuals were amazing. It reminded me of Interstellar. There was one part where like the space station crashed into like it crashed in like the rings of a planet, and like the junk was beautiful. One thing one thing I love about space movies is when they could do the whole like when like a ship gets like punctured by like a flying something, and then like it goes into the vacuum of space, and you know how they cut out all the like audio, and then like it's on mute, and like I love when movies do that. You feel me? But I'm gonna sit through this.
To New Rockstars, I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Alien Romulus, the 2024 film directed by Fede Alvarez, taking place between the first 1979 Alien film and 1986's Aliens, and as the best Alien film since, it is filled with references and homages to every film of the franchise, with incredible production design and attention to detail, and even some updates to the biology and the lore of the xenomorph, and how it connects to the black goo of Prometheus and Covenant. So let's break down everything you might have missed.
But I would say this does make me, I do want to watch Prometheus. I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch like the old ass movies, because I feel like that shit jarring. I might watch like the first one with the female, like the first one, but I low key want to watch Prometheus because I want to know the whole shit they have to do with like the engineers and the black goo. I'm low key interested now.
And trust me, there are some incredible.
Low key, this movie made me feel like I feel like xenomorphs are kind of like. I ain't gonna lie, Zormo, you be dick sucking the hell out of them xenomorphs. I feel like, bro, if you get one of them, the little rifles Kuh had in the beginning with like the auto track system and the energy laser beams, and you just go for headshots, xenomorphs not that scary. If they're coming in like in a straight line in like a cave, like I get they're like all powerful, advanced, you know what I mean? I do understand how they like steal people's powers and stuff, bro. I watched like a whole 40-minute video of like every single xenomorph, there's like a dog one, a goddess. I watched a whole 40-minute video, and I don't know, bro. You feel me? I feel like if niggas was more equipped with that little automated pulse rifle, I feel like that shit grits.
Details that you probably missed in this movie. Okay, the opening 20th Century Studios logo suddenly glitches yellow-green and then corrodes away. From dark space comes
that was a cool little transition they did with the 23rd
blinks
century.
And a red screen blinks on by itself. Echo Probe 203.
My best character in the movie was that boy Andy. I'm not gonna lie, low key, I'm gonna raise that shit to 7.8. Cause Andy, bro, whoever the actor was for Andy, the android, that nigga did an amazing job. Cause like I love how like you can tell when like it was like the dumb Andy, the nigga that was like a decommissioned miner bot or whatever, and then it switched when they add like the little module for that nigga to like get like extra clearance in the ship. Like he turned all smart, and like it's crazy how you could clearly tell the difference between the two. And like, bro, that's like all acting, bro. That's literally all acting. That's how that shit came to be. Like he, as an actor, he did an amazing job. I ain't gonna lie, low key, I'm raising my rating to 7.8 just for that boy Andy. As far as 10mm armor, prison rounds, explosive tips, okay, you're gonna give me whole xenomorph lore.
Tight in the same curved typeface, white on red, inside as the early shot from 1979's Alien.
Yeah, bro, I feel like, bro, if I had one of them pulse rifles, I wouldn't be scared of a xenomorph.
In the 1979
just give me one of them pulse rifles.
Text glows on the visor of a space helmet. Now it glows on this triangular eyepiece of whatever program runs this probe ship. But now we actually see the text of Mother, because we know what Mother really means. Mother 9001 waking up. So Mother is the name of the artificial intelligence mainframe used by Weyland-Yutani. It was Mother 6000 6000 in the 1979 Alien set in 2122, and then it was upgraded to Mother 9000 for this era 20 years later in 2142. We see that date on the screen here, 9 February 2142. We are in the Zeta 2 Reticuli system. Zeta Reticuli is an actual binary star system visible in the southern hemisphere on Earth, both stars having similar characteristics to our sun, and it's located about 39.3 light years from Earth. The Echo probe enters the debris field with Nostromo visible on a piece of fuselage. The Nostromo was the ship in the 1979 film that was hauling a refinery with mineral ore that, when redirected by Mother to LV-426 Akron to gather samples of the alien specimen, Kane was infected by a facehugger, leading to the deadly tragedy in which Ripley had to detonate the entire ship and even blow the xenomorph out the airlock of the escape craft with a harpoon. But now we learn that these xenomorphs can apparently cocoon themselves in space and survive. The official soundtrack by composer Benjamin Wallfish calls this opening music the chrysalis. So presumably that was the script's word for this thing that the Echo probe intercepts. In biological science, a chrysalis refers to the hardened outer protective layer of a pupa.
It is
when
crazy
butterflies
how,
go from pupa to adults, you're basically what
like
metapod or kakuna are in Pokemon terms. Actually, this film establishes a wetter people stage in the xenomorph life cycle, something that we actually had not seen previously, only really took place off-screen in the 1979 Alien film. Chestbursters represent the larval stage, and then those chestbursters scamper off, they molt, and then they form this cocoon or chrysalis in which they rapidly grow into the large adult xenomorph warrior stage. But in this instance, the xenomorph adults can also survive in space by generating an even harder chrysalis and living for decades, which should make all of us worried about the alien queen that Ripley shoots out into space in Aliens. After the Weyland-Yutani scientists grab one of these things and we see from this fossilized insides of the chrysalis that that's definitely a xenomorph, we smash cut to the word alien, and as the letters of Romulus trickle in, the letters A, L, I, E, and N disassemble back into single lines, a reversal of the way the letters assembled in the opening titles of the 1979 film. So we meet Rain Carradine, played by Kaylee Spinney, enjoying a sunrise on the planet Ivaga. Ivaga is the heavenly destination sought by these characters, and in the real world, Ivaga is the name given to a planet orbiting the star HD 63765 in the Carina constellation. Ivaga means sky or heaven in the language of Guarani, which is an indigenous Paraguayan language, and the Milky Way was known as the road to Ivaga. Rain wakes up from this dream to see Rain on the window looking out at what is a giant nuclear atmosphere generator for the Jackson Star mining colony. An announcement over the PA system warns mining workers that if they have a cough, they must quarantine and report themselves. Sprinkled throughout this movie are details pointing to the human workers getting aerial sicknesses as a result of toiling on these alien surfaces with microbes that our bodies are not evolved to handle, which sets up why the Renaissance space station conducted its work. Andy, David Johnson, greets Rain with a joke.
I forgot, they have acid blood, where even if they like bleed on you,
an android. That's probably where he got his name. Reprogrammed by Rain's father to be a surrogate brother. His joke here about the claustrophobic astronaut who needs space sets up the drama to come. It's a claustrophobic horror story that releases attention by freeing Rain from the grip of the offspring to give her space. A long tracking shot follows Rain and Andy through the mining colony. Population 2781, distance from Earth 65 light years, hours of daylight per year 0. We see later on the screen that this is the Alpheus system.
Imagine living on a planet where you literally get zero sunlight,
which is caused by a specific bacteria that normally is carried by ticks. And makes you wonder what other kind of parasitic insects are they exposed to like vitamin D? Rain asks the Weyland-Yutani clerk if she's met her quota. Now on the personnel screen, we see that she was born on February 18th, 2121, which is right around the Nostromo incident. Her full name is Marie Rains Carradine, which tells us that she goes by the nickname from her mother's maiden name, I have to assume, if her middle name is her mother's maiden name. But this clerk raises Rain's quota from 12,000 to 24,000 hours, seemingly random, but perhaps this is triggered by the mention of Rain's parents and the fact that they were listed on her screen and how they actually might have died with some time left on their contracts. Basically, all these workers are indentured servants for the company. Rain takes a call from her ex-boyfriend Tyler, played by Archie Renault, and she takes Andy out to see the group, including Kay and Savannah Merced, who's Tyler's sister. Bjorn, played by Spike Fern, who's Tyler and Kay's hothead cousin, whose mother actually died when a synthetic trapped her in a mine when there was a fuel line rupture. I guess he was only an asshole. He was kind of Wu, Bjorn's girlfriend. Tyler explains how in the orbit above the planet they picked up a signal, and then Bjorn interrupts, joking, going beep, 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 which is the same kind of cadence of beeps of the signal picked up by the Nostromo to redirect to LV-426 in the 1979 film. Meanwhile, Andy plays a computer game that involves a shooter progressing behind logs, killing these crawling aliens that look a lot like facehuggers. Later, Tyler explains that he got his knowledge about firearms from games and magazines, and I think this might be one of the video games that he and Bjorn had played. They plan to use Andy, a Weyland-Yutani synthetic who can access all doors, to break into this derelict decommissioned space station in orbit to steal cryopods that would allow them to make the 9-year journey to Ivaga. This movie actually begins with them not needing Rain for any actual function on this mission. They're just using her because Andy won't go anywhere without her. But despite her tag-along status, she actually ends up being the final survivor of this movie. Outside, Rain sees a group of older miners bringing in a canary in a cage.
Andy got that Marlboro grade,
indicating how these miners are all being thrown into the dark to
I ain't got the only person I did like the movie was Andy.
The same kind of mineral ore that
he was literally the only person I liked.
So they take their ship, the Corbalon 4. In the cockpit behind Navarro are some examples of semiotic standard. These are the series of symbols invented by Ron Cobb, production designer of the 1979 Alien film, to conceive of visual ways for humans in space of this world to label different parts of ships. And it's such a cool little piece of sci-fi production design that a lot of production designers on film since then have adopted, like in the 2010 Sam Rockwell movie Moon, and even in Loki Season 2, above the hatch that leads to the Loom observation deck. These symbols that we see translate to hazard/warning and astronic systems, aka electronics. And behind the cockpit, we see this triangle that means bridge, because that's what they're on here, the bridge. As Navarro fires up the Corbalon, various screens show the different parts of the ship, including the cargo bay with the piles of the mineral, just to kind of set up the geography that will become important in the final act of the movie. And Rain sees the sun of Jackson's star for the first time, but it gets eclipsed by the darkness of the space station. This is the Renaissance station of the Weyland-Yutani Company, and it's divided into two modules, the Romulus and Remus, named after the legendary founders of Rome. Romulus and Remus were brothers who were orphaned and raised by a wolf mother on the banks of the Tiber River. Andy follows Tyler and Bjorn into the hatch, and he touches a hook harness before Bjorn snaps at him. This will be the same cable that Rain will use in the final act to tether herself when the offspring is attacking her. It seems like Fede Alvarez is trying to do what James Cameron did in the opening act of Aliens and just set up every little detail that will become important in the final scuffle right there in the opening act. We see that they use the same M314 motion tracker that the Colonial Marines used in 1986's Aliens, and they climb into the vent hatch and realize from this floating dead rat that the gravity generators are malfunctioning. I like how this movie in multiple times uses an actual lab rat to kind of convey to the viewer what will be happening to the humans in this movie. They reach the pods, but they realize they only have 3.2 years of charge and they need 9, so they look for more cryo fuel. And throughout this film, we're hearing some orchestral flourishes. The composer sampled Jerry Goldsmith's theme from Alien, James Horner's theme from Aliens, Mark Streitenfeld's theme from Prometheus, and they even feature in a key moment entry of the Gods into Valhalla from Richard Wagner's Das Rheingold, featured prominently in Alien Covenant. The guys enter the central part of the Renaissance, where
Alien Prometheus come out recently,
separate
like
modules of Romulus and Remus, and Bjorn notices this painting. This is Michel Serret's view of the Hotel de Ville of Marseille during the plague of 1720. And notice that we're hearing the Wagner music from Alien Covenant in this moment, as the voice explains the lab's purpose is to improve the quality of human life. But Bjorn focuses on the part of Serret's painting in which bodies of plague victims are being piled up, and one living baby tries to breastfeed from his dead mother in the pile. Oh,
that's nasty.
So obviously this foreshadows the Renaissance's mission of curing human ailments using the black goo, as Weyland-Yutani concluded that human bodies were too frail for space colonization and too prone to diseases, probably after the 101-year-old Peter Weyland, looking for a way to stave off death, had this happen to him from an engineer. But also the breastfeeding imagery foreshadows the way the offspring will be suckling from the corpse of Kay in the final act, draining the life of this cursed woman. Bjorn tells Andy that he won't be joining them in the cryopod, something Rain had kept from him, and Bjorn says no fake people allowed, but Andy responds, I prefer the term artificial person myself, which is a nod to Bishop's line in Aliens.
It's just common practice. We always have a synthetic on board.
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
So they enter the genetics lab, and there's a top half of a synthetic that has been corroded with xenomorph acid lying beside a hole. And notice that this android is wearing the same light blue and white science officer uniform that a guy named Ash wore in Alien. So, you know, that should be a clue. Now the semiotic standard of that a guy named Ash.
Isn't that the same actor that played Rook? Is that not the same actor? Because he looks vaguely like the dude, the half synthetic
swore an alien, so you know that should be a clue. Now the semiotic standard on the cryo chamber door translates to cryogenic vault, but the head is missing on that part of the symbol, so that's ominous. And then the next one is refrigeration, followed by hazard. And as they try to snatch one of the cryopods, that triggers a lockdown because no one would want these facehuggers to thaw out and be able to escape. Navarro finds his awesome X-ray torch, MK017, while Rain pries out the credential disc from the science officer android, and they plug it into Andy's drive, but he tenses up to reboot, and it's such a creepy creepy pose that looks like he's like in a kind of prayerful pose to his god, Peter Wayland, as his eyes roll over back to show the Wayland-Yutani logo on the back of his eyeball. And the face huggers choose now to attack. It's horrifying. Tyler is able to fend them off initially with just this prodding stick.
It's great. Imagine a feature where you can see replies on IG stories, so if you swipe up on a story, people can see it. Damn. Means people, hey, I ain't gonna lie, niggas not gonna be swiping no more stories no more. Damn. Why would they do that? Damn, bro. So I can't just swipe on a story. Ooh. Damn. I ain't gonna lie. Hell, Instagram always adding shit they don't need to.
Asking, wait, facehuggers should be a lot deadlier and resilient, right? Well, yes, in past Alien movies, they are far more ferocious, but in this scene, I think they're still waking up from cryosleep. Because remember, the humans were joking earlier that you feel hungover after cryosleep, and these facehuggers seem a little sluggish here, but they get far more vicious as the movie goes on. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring the health use episode, but most one of their hour started back. You from was the most open.
They replied, "Damn, you look good as fuck." And when I seen the page, bro, got a girl. That's so crazy, bro. Fuck! Damn, bro. You just gotta go straight in. Bro, you can't swipe up on stories no more. That's wild. That's tough as shit. Bro, I ain't gonna lie. Damn, that's federal.
Therapist, I recommend visit betterhelp.com. There's this great shot that follows a crawling facehugger as it crawls toward a passed out Tyler, and it jumps on his face, but Andy grabs it by the tail at the last second because his programming is kicked in with the sudden knowledge that the tail would be the safest way to grab these things. So they're able to get through the hatch, but one leaps through at the last second. Bjorn bats it, but then feeling a momentary confidence, he looks over to see, uh-oh, all the rest are immediately with their little fingers prying through the crack. So they're able to get back to the inner lab room, but once again, one leaps through at the last second, catching Navarro on the face. Not sure what to do, they plug in the other synthetic, and it is, wait a minute, Ash, is that you? No, this is Science Officer Rook, which is another android named after a chess piece like Bishop, with the voice and the likeness of the late Ian Holm, who passed away in 2020, but he is voiced by actor Daniel Betts. According to Fede Alvarez, they created the effect with animatronics built to resemble Ian Holm, but I'm pretty sure some VFX were definitely used here.
So they have VFX to like have his face.
Estate and got that's kind of cool. His widow. I've gone into this in other videos, and I'm still not crazy when studios do this. Because, you know, what are you going to ask?
They did the same thing with Luke Skywalker, too.
If they're okay, if their great-great-grandfather could be in a movie. It's impossible for any actor to know who all of their descendants will be, and whether those descendants might be dirtbags who just want, like, a quick payout to the estate by a movie studio. Unless the actor puts it into writing that they are okay that the movie will do this with their likeness in some future sequel, I don't think getting the blessing of their widow is enough. Anyway, above their heads, somehow missed the entire time they were in this lab, hangs the XX-121 Xenomorph, which was Rook's name for the Xenomorph aboard the Nostromo. We even see the harpoon that Ripley shot at it, still skewered in its body. Xenomorph aboard the Nostromo. We even see the harpoon that Ripley...
That's so cool. So that's the same Xenomorph that Ripley shot. That's cool. I didn't even peep that. Probably because I didn't see the movie.
Skewered in its body. We see an employee file for Kane, played by John Hurt from the 1979 film. He's the one who got infected and brought the Xenomorph aboard the Nostromo. Rook explains that they found this XX-121 in space, saying the lack of oxygen and food are no true consequence to this perfect organism. A perfect organism was exactly how Ash described the Xenomorph in the 1979 film.
You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism.
So they're able to freeze the facehugger off, but Navarro and Bjorn get back to the Corvalon despite...
I ain't gonna lie, bro. Oh, this shit, okay. See, what made it real stupid was, bro, I'm sorry. I mean, it's such a hard situation to, like, when like, obviously for me, like, not in that situation, I would always say, like, I ain't gonna lie, bro, kill the bitch. Bro, this nigga, he literally said... Our best thing to do is kill her, leave. But, like, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, bro, if that was, like, one of my loved ones that got impregnated by a facehugger, it's a hard situation. It's a hard situation. Yeah. But it's just like, bro, when they took the facehugger out and, like, the nigga had the long tentacle shit down her throat slowly, like, that shit was nasty as fuck. That shit was nasty. And bro, she took the X-ray and you could see the little thing like swimming around in the rib cage.
And the chest burster bursts, causing the Corvalon to crash into the hangar. The filmmakers have gotten a bit more nuanced over the decades when it comes to the puppet prosthetics, and I like that they include little details like an additional membrane sliding off the chest burster's head, and rather than rising out of the chest cavity and scampering away, the chest burster here looks a bit more lethargic, like a newborn baby, a true larval stage. And I think that's designed to set up the fact that they're going to have this additional pupil stage. Andy explains to Rain and Tyler that the facehuggers respond to sound and heat signature, so they decide to raise the temperature of the room to human body heat to try to be invisible to them, but that would also mean that they can't get nervous or stressed. In this sequence, we get to see Fede Alvarez's experience
I was sitting myself when they was doing this
scene. This is largely the premise of that movie. Kay finds the molted husk of the chest burster, similar to Brett finding the skin in the 1979 film, but now we see a stage that we had not seen before, the chrysalis, as the chest burster cocoons into adult xenomorph warrior. Now, sexual imagery certainly went into H.R. Giger's original creature designs, and there's certainly a, vaginal appearance to the pod here, especially when Bjorn tries to abort this thing by shoving the prod inside of that orifice to zap it, but it ends up dripping acidic blood on him and killing him. The way Fede Alvarez shoots this xenomorph hatching is just so effective because he focuses on close-ups of like the hands and the fingers, the way they were folded atop the head as it crowns,
and
the way those
big
fingers unfold and open up slowly like Nosferatu. And we know Nosferatu inspired the original blocking and the design.
The dude was smart for trying to kill it.
We see smaller claws that must be the
he was smart. And then his dumbass, as he was getting burned, he just stayed under it.
Newland plays the xenomorph in this film. So the others, meanwhile, just vicariously feeling the fear of Kay in this moment, start sweating bullets. So they have to run. Andy closes the door, perfect timing, nearly locking Tyler out, but he says that he actually calculated Tyler's running speed more effectively than he did for Bjorn and Navarro's speed before. And Andy was not wrong, because think about it, every time a facehugger got in through the door, it was when the narrowest gap was left open after the last human came through. So it really this was
after when Andy got his like upgrade.
We see a quick wide external shot of the Renaissance from space outside,
they did stab
where the Remus
him
module is dated 2112 and the Romulus module is dated 2130 something. Right, so that tells us that Weyland-Yutani built the Remus part before, between Alien Covenant, which was in 2104, and the events of the first Alien film in 2122, and then they built the Romulus part after the Nostromo incident in 2122. Andy refuses to open the door to let Kay through, and she gets snatched away by the xenomorph. Rain asks, "How could you do that?" And Andy responds, "What, leave someone behind?" Normal Andy's programming never would have held it over Rain that she was going to leave him behind on her way to Ivaga, but this new programming gives him like a guilt trip drive to make him more emotionally manipulative. They arrive at the secure Romulus lab where we hear the voice of Mother in this movie, and Mother is voiced by Anne-Marie Griggs, who's actually the film's visual effects producer. She also did VFX for Birds of Prey in the 2016 Deadpool film. We learn about Compound Z01 or Z01. That's the name given to the black goo from Prometheus and Alien Romulus, the bioweapon created by the engineers to break down and reform the DNA structure of living organisms. The engineers used this to create life on Earth billions of years ago, but disappointed by their experiment of mankind, planned to use this bioweapon to kill us. There's even a deleted scene from the script in Prometheus where the engineer would have spoken in this old language to David and implied that even Jesus Christ was a figure that the engineers put there to try to educate humanity, and we just murdered him. But the android David used this compound to drug Holloway, who then impregnated Shaw, who had to C-section out of her a squid-like fetus abomination, an abomination that rapidly grew and latched onto the last engineer to implant a seed that hatched out as a deacon. Then in Alien Covenant, David latched onto the last engineer to implant a seed that hatched.
I'm not gonna lie, I saw like the video I watched on the different xenomorph types. I'm mad that they didn't give did they not do anything with this deacon xenomorph? Because this shit looked really cool. Like, it reminded me, what's that one fish that has like the elongated jaw?
Out as
this was really cool. I'm mad they didn't do more with this kind of form. They basically saw humans as kids. Oh, you talking about the engineers? They should have did more with this form, like a xenomorph that was like an engineer. That came out of engineer. That's kind of
then in Alien Covenant, David unleashed his compound on an engineer city and experimented with the compound and with body parts harvested from Shaw's corpse to create a perfect organism, which became that movie's version of the xenomorphs, the neomorphs. But to be clear, David did not invent all the xenomorphs, at least as they were in the 1979 film. Those eggs were carried by a different engineer, the space jockey, whose origin and story we don't fully know. But David was trying to continue the work of the engineers to create a bioweapon in the image of a perfect organism, which was really a mythological ideal that they were trying to recapture, because there was an engraving that we saw in the Prometheus film. The design of the xenomorph was really something known to the engineers from their own distant past. The engineers were not the original gods, they were also created by someone else, and they might have even been a genetic aberration descended from a race of hunters and conquerors that looked like xenomorphs that they admired as gods or even feared as demons. The truth is, we'll never know, and it seems like with this franchise we are coming full circle with that mythological cycle. So we learned the Weyland-Yutani scientists reverse engineered this compound from the XX121 xenomorph. We see a 3D printed form of even the ceatite ampule vases that we saw in Prometheus. These are the vases that contain the black goo as a kind of chemical warhead shell. We see a screen with a test rat, and on the side it says source LV426 and Acheron. I might be wrong, but it might be the first time we've seen Acheron on screen, because it was not on screen at any point in the 1979 film, but that was the original name of the planet for the film. I think it was in the script. Rook describes the goo as a non-Newtonian fluid, life in its most primal form, and he calls it Prometheus fire, the divine gift to humanity. And we hear the alien theme here. Andy takes them into a weapons bay for a couple M44A pulse rifles. In Aliens, they were the M41A pulse rifles, so these must be earlier models. Tyler says that these are the same models used by the current Colonial Marines. It seems like he's a guy who wanted to join the Colonial Marines, but he was just stuck in this mining colony.
That pulse rifle shit,
assistance and a shoulder
and that shit has a 450
This whole scene is obviously meant to evoke the scene of Hicks showing Ripley how to use the pulse rifle in Aliens.
Bro, if I had like 5 magazines of them pulse rifles, 450 rounds, I would not be scared of any xenomorph. I would take on the whole queen, bro. Give me one of the pulse rifles. I'm having no fear in my heart, bro. And that shit has aim assist, nigga.
So Nick Sapp is one of the concept designers for this film, and he tweeted how the weapons locker was actually an homage to Sid Mead's concept art for Aliens in 1986, which was also seen in the weapons bay of the Sulaco in that film. So they find the hive left by the xenomorph, covering a corridor with outgrowth and hollowed out bodies of scientists, but they do find Kay still alive, but injured, not implanted yet. It's kind of like when Ripley finds Newt, mostly unharmed, in the alien queen hive in Aliens. Notice there's this blue laser field cutting through the mist ankle level. This actually comes from the egg chamber in the 1979 film, and it was actually an effect gotten from The Who were rehearsing on the soundstage next door with lasers and mist for their concert show. A xenomorph grabs Tyler and hauls him up. The xenomorph's inner mouth punctures Tyler's head, just like it did to Parker in the 1979 film. Rain sends Kay back to the ship and goes back down for Andy.
Bro, y'all stop making ones with aim assist, bro. Fuck that. Put aim assist on my
her shoulder, the air gusting through her hair, the smoke billowing behind her. Just looks just like Ripley going back for Newt in Aliens. Rain finds Andy and removes the evil Weyland-Yutani drive, but Rook refuses to open the door, saying, "I can't lie about your chances, but you have my sympathies," which was Ash's final words in the Alien before they torched him.
I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
Rain and Andy wait for their fate as the Xenomorph warriors close in, so they start telling jokes. Why don't monsters eat clowns? Because they taste funny. I read a book about zero gravity. I just couldn't put it down. And this one inspires Rain to use the station's faulty gravity generators to their advantage. And the semiotic standard here is my favorite symbols: pressurized by artificial gravity and artificial gravity absent. The second one is just a stick figure guy floating upside down. Knowing the acidic blood won't drop down through the hull if there's no gravity, Rain sprays them with pulse rifle fire. There are a few inserts of Kaylee Spenny with this crazed look on her face as she's shaking for the recoil to look just like James Cameron shots of Ripley as she fired the pulse rifle at the alien queen's eggs.
They get into it.
So now they just have the mere challenge of floating through the acidic blood without letting any of it graze them. Rain
now, I'm not gonna lie, bro.
The recoil.
I feel like that seems low-key. I don't see how you would do that. Like, you told me they just maneuvered their way in anti-gravity with like whole yellow blood spot. There's no way not at least one drop dropped on them. My coordination would not have been that good. I'm not gonna lie. That's one part where I was like, yeah, I probably would have got touched.
from the pulse rifle and Newton's third law to push herself out of the way. So
that was good tech, the way that she like pushed off
the xenomorph grabs Rain, she shoots it, but doesn't get any acid on herself, which, you know, I feel bad for the Marines and aliens for whom that would happen anytime they fired, but there are consequences because the acid does burn a hole in the gate, which opens up a xenomorph to grab her later and unleash several more up the shaft. But now with gravity restored, Andy releases the elevator to wipe out all the others, and then Andy shoots one last space hugger that leaps out at Rain, and then the xenomorph going down with it, saying, "Get away from her,
bitch,
you bitch."
Get away from her, you bitch.
But Johnson doesn't.
No, that was a cool ass scene from Andy. The way he was standing over with the
Sigourney Weaver did. He says it with a perfectly hesitant stutter that's typical of Andy. It is just perfect. The Renaissance station
bro, he was the best character, bro. I loved Andy.
And
I love Andy.
So sick in this movie. The Corbalon detaches, and Rain disconnects Mother, and Rook gets chewed up and rock and ice. But we don't see him actually disintegrate. And in the classic horror structure of the 1979 Alien, in 1986's Aliens, just when you think it's all over and everyone's okay, the worst comes. Since Kay had injected the compound, her cryopod becomes critical, and Rain opens it to find her screaming, and her womb is extraordinarily large, and we can't show it because
that scene was terrible, bro. That scene, bro, they actually showed like, that scene was so nasty. That scene was so nasty. That scene was so nasty, bro. I'm glad, bro. I'm not gonna lie. One of the things I'm like scared to like witness is like childbirth, bro. I've never seen it. I don't want to see it, but like, I'm glad they didn't show like the frontwards view of like the whole egg. Like, you could actually see that, like, you couldn't see it in the movie, but like, I'm glad they did it, cause like, nah, that shit was nasty. Kay had it the worst. What you mean? Oh, you talking about? Yeah, she did, bro. And
YouTube, Fede Alvarez promised a gross out horror moment that had never been done in the history of sci-fi cinema before. Though it is similar to like Dawn of the Dead, where there was like the zombie baby. I guess what happens after the birth has never happened in cinema before. So Kay gives birth to a pod, and then Rain rips out the umbilical cord, and we are reminded of Shaw's cesarean section operation in Prometheus, but if it wasn't aborted, Rain runs off with the pod to try to kill it with cryofuel, but it opens and not into a xenomorph. That is the face of like a baby engineer. And the acid melts this cradle through the walkway. She finds the pod empty in the mineral bay and follows handprints as it grows larger. We're reminded of like a rapid
that nigga he goes fast as hell too.
But above, Andy finds Kay, whose breasts are now emitting this mucousy breast milk. It's like, oh, what's gonna eat that? And then we see it, the offspring. This movie calls it.
Disgusting.
So the offspring was deliberately designed to look like a freakish form of an engineer, but with a taller, lankier appearance and acidic blood and an inner mouth on the end of its tongue, all evocative of the xenomorph. Fede Alvarez wanted to merge the visual concept of the engineer with the visual concept of the xenomorph. He did admit it is similar to the xenomorph human hybrid birthed from Ripley 8 in Resurrection, but that was not in his mind when he was designing this. So, despite David's tinkering with the compound to produce the neomorphs in Alien Covenant, we learn here that when the compound mixes with human DNA in this particular way, it kind of reverts to the source code, which is the engineers who created us. It just shows that the creation of the xenomorphs is a specific bit of artistry that just doesn't happen by accident. It requires some kind of divine insight that David had just by knowing the engineer species. Since human beings are derived from engineers, this kind of unlocked that, but it contained traces of the xenomorph because its black goo was derived from the XX121. This offspring was played by former Romanian basketball player Robert Bobrovsky, who is 7'7", and
bro, I remember this nigga, bro. This nigga was just tall and lengthy and had a weird build. Damn, bro, and I guess he was a former basketball player. I guess he don't hoop no more. I'm glad he's into acting. Bro, how would you feel if you was like, you acted and niggas just use your likeness as like a horrifying monster thingy? I don't know how I feel about that.
That these xenomorph anatomical features come from something with ultimately a humanoid face and pale skin makes this even more disturbing. At one point he smiles and I'm like, why are you smiling? But it is cool to show the metallic teeth because these things are not just organic, they are like biomechanical creations. So Rain finds his offspring, I guess you could say breastfeeding from Kay, draining her life like the Saray painting, like Romulus and Remus suckling from the wolf mother, and we see this xenomorph tail filling out. It is now doubled in size. Earlier Kay Kay said that the father of this baby was some asshole as she wore a Virgin Mary necklace. And I feel like there might be some sacrilegious parallel there where the father was really the company who considered themselves God. Weyland-Yutani, Peter Weyland, the assholes trying to play God to produce the perfect organism, but in doing so, really just creating a freak that is neither God nor demon. Like Ripley at the end of the 1979 film, Rain climbs into a spacesuit. She grabs the cable that Andy passed before, and when the offspring stops her from manually releasing the cargo with a second lever, she kicks over his cradle pod to release the acid and chew through the hull. And there's one final scare as the offspring jumps on her. In this tangle, her cable catches that second.
And the one thing you didn't mention, that's when they did like the whole scene where like the vacuum of space came into the ship, and then like that's when it like went muted, and it was a great scene. And then it was at the same. No, I think when the space station hit the rings, it was different, but it's a good scene.
Releasing the entire cargo.
It was that scene. This is the scene I was talking about. This scene was amazing. This scene right here reminded me of Interstellar. And I was like, bro, that shit's beautiful. That shit's beautiful. It was like it was a good scene.
Into the bands as she hangs onto the cable for dear life and screams, "Die, motherfucker!" But while the cargo bay grinds against the rings of ice and rock, behind it is what is left of the Renaissance space station, which makes me a bit worried for whatever could be left inside of that. Of Rook or the compound.
Bro, you know what's crazy? Bro, that nigga's probably not dead. You think he's dead? Because xenomorphs can survive in space, and that man, he has xenomorph blood mixed with, I guess, engineered blood. So, like, low-key, they could probably do the same thing. They could probably have him, like, crystallize, you know what I mean?
Or the xenomorphs that are still on that space station that could collide with the offspring, because we learned in this movie that space does not kill these things. And the Corbelan sets course for Ivaga 3. One of my favorite Easter eggs comes right here. The keypad that Rain punches has the same buttons from the Nostromo keypad that we saw in Alien that were created by designer Simon Deering, who printed a bunch of Hindu and Sanskrit terms on these buttons because he was reading Helena Blavatsky's The Second Doctrine while he was filming this. And that book tries to explain the origin of the universe in terms derived from the Hindu concept of cyclical development. And specifically, you can see two buttons here. Yoni, which is an abstract
take the pulse rifle to the head.
Shakti,
pulse rifle to the head. Only way you
and
do it.
Pranic Lift 777. Prana is the Sanskrit word for life force. It's one of the most random details in the 1979 Alien film. And the fact that the Romulus team had such attention to detail to include this here is insane to me. And I love it because they end the film with this kind of message that life comes from the womb, which is a bit of a nice palate cleanser after the horrific abomination example of that we just saw in the final minutes. So Rain goes to sleep and leaves a cryolog that takes us out, just like the voice of Ripley in the 1979 and 1986 films, just as the Echo probe came from darkness in the opening shot. Now, the Corbelan disappears into that same darkness. Let me know what you thought about Alien Romulus. How does it rank with the other Alien films?
I was like 7.8 is fair.
With your thoughts.
I wouldn't give it 8, but 7.8.
Subscribe to all 3 channels in the New Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage.
Looks fair.
Love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Oof. All right. Should I do USC? I don't know. I feel like it's getting kind of old. I just wanted to do the FSU one because I was really passionate. Well, good movie. Good movie indeed. Want to hear more of Eric's thoughts on Aliens Rome? Let's check out our conversation. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch Prometheus and I think the original Aliens, low key. I want to see if I get into it. Let me end recording.